Hey guys, it's Mad Static, and 21 is pretty young, right? Where I'm from, I've only just been allowed to drink. You know, legally. But I swear, man, being a Metal Gear fan makes me feel 10 years older, because no one knows what this is anymore. It's been almost 10 years since The Phantom Pain came out, and Konami ruined their reputation by publicly humiliating and firing Kojima and shifting their focus to pachinko machines. In that time, we've gotten nothing from the franchise. Nothing at all. Revengeance did have a rising in popularity a year or two ago. You know, Konami did try to have the franchise survive. It didn't work.
Yeah, I was trying to make a bid for this part, but I can't. I'm sorry. This game is so bad.
The truth is, Metal Gear has been rotting for an entire generation now, and much of the population has converted to gamerism in that time. So for a lot of new gamers, Snake really is just the military dude from Smash Bros. But finally, a few months ago, not only did Konami decide to start selling their games again, Snake Eater was announced to be getting a remake. And I can't lie, with this announcement, we're eating pretty good, alright? But jokes aside for a second, I really wish it was one getting remade. Because here's the thing, Snake Eater is pretty timeless, right? And so is Sons of Liberty. You pop these in and not only do they look pretty good, they play better than most games today. Metal Gear Solid 1 is still fantastic, revolutionary for the time, and still the best in the series to a respectable many. But it still plays and most definitely looks like a PS1 game. Now, all due respect to PS1 games, along with N64 and, you know, whatever Sega had back then, they were the frontrunners for 3D gaming. They gave it a go when no one knew what they were really doing, so they literally helped guide the industry to where it is today. But because of that, it's very easy nowadays to see their growing pains. They're very squared, very cubey growing pains. The aesthetic is very cool, literally. The pixelated snowstorm, the saturated blues but muted grays and greens give the game a very distinct temperature. I love how these little squares stacked on top of like bigger squares combined to create these blocky looking futuristic computers and infrastructure. It's a very retro idea of what high tech looks like. It all makes Shadow Moses, which could have been a generic militia base, into this iconic game world. The fact that it was all done while looking like Minecraft isn't only nostalgic and charming, but actually admirable. But do I really need to explain what I want here? They're talking about some very serious, very confusing business here, and while they're looking like, what do you even describe PS1 graphics as? It's not particularly bad. It can be funny. It can also give like this uncanny imposter feeling. I know there's a term for it, I just can't recall it right now. Like, these humanoid blocks move and sound and resemble people. They are not people. Stop playing. What I'm trying to say is, just imagine all of this looking like Phantom Pain. That's all I'm saying. Fuck the graphics though, because the gameplay changes are what I'm really needing. The gameplay and mechanics by themselves are actually pretty simple. Ironic considering the series, but it's not a bad thing. You can run, crawl, hit stuff, use stuff, shoot stuff. Shadow Moses is meticulously designed to utilize all 5 of those capabilities, but what's really cool is how many different problems you can solve with only 5 actions. Crawling keeps you from making noise and keeps you low, but did you know you can use it to retrieve claymores? Or that if you get behind someone, you can press square to repeatedly strangle them? Because I beat this whole game before, so why am I just finding this shit out?
It'll work this time, trust me. Okay, so how am I supposed...
I think the point of the cardboard box, besides being iconic, is to drive home the idea of using everything you have available. Everything's got some kind of important purpose, which is why, despite the limitations, the game's stealth is still more dynamic than most of any stealthing games today, while admittedly still being dwarfed by every other Metal Gear Solid afterwards. The AI is not that smart, and this asymmetrical shooting shit is my least favorite thing ever, but they aren't really flaws in the game. That's just how it works. And it does work. Though to keep it all working with a remake, they would have to go the whole mile and redesign literally everything. Cause in case you didn't know, there's been an elephant in this room from the start. Metal Gear Solid already has a remake, The Twin Snakes. From face value, this looks like the perfect remake, full Resident Evil 1 treatment. And graphically, yeah, it got a glow up, but we got some problems. First of all, this. Second of all, that. But most importantly, Twin Snakes kinda just took the mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 2 and plopped them into the first game without changing the structure of the levels or the challenges you face. So these seemingly simple additions end up breaking a lot of the experience. You want the freedom and nuance of the later entries, but complemented by levels built to test those abilities. For what's here though, you will surely utilize everything inside the game. And some stuff outside of it too. This game's also pretty famous for its fourth wall breaks. Amazing for the time, but definitely the most outdated part of the game. Most of them are playing with technology and features of a 1998 PlayStation 1 setup. Stuff like CRT TVs, actually having a DVD box with the game, and this exciting new feature of the time called vibration.
I will move your controller by the power of my will alone.
No way. Whoa.
It's really interesting to think about what the game could do messing with modern technology. With how much we've moved forward though, these moments just aren't that stand out anymore. It's still kinda quirky here though. It adds a lot to the game's personality. After a super detailed and immersive explanation of the mission and what you've got to do, characters will just outright tell Snake to press the X button on his controller, or talk about what it's like to be a gamer.
Trust your instincts as a soldier, as a gamer.
This game's got a very self-aware sense of humor that it really likes to use to just mess with you sometimes. Hey guys, so this is a post-edit. I just wanted to say that there are a few examples of what I'm talking about here, but I want to specifically call out the control towers. Whether it's the fight up to the first tower with the ridiculous amount of stairs, or the rappel section, or the fight right after the rappel section, or the second set of stairs, or the second set of stairs being blocked off, or the elevator for the stairs being broken, or no, the fucking security guns. That's where I lost it. It is the funniest part of the game. Like, I have never laughed so hard while crying. This goes for the gameplay scenarios and its confusing ass plot. Another thing, maybe the thing Metal Gear Solid is known for, is its story. Back then it was a major step up in the quality of storytelling for games, getting as close as possible to a movie for the time. Legendary soldier Solid Snake is sent on a top secret operation to stop a terrorist group from launching nuclear warheads. Essentially, but as the mission progresses, it becomes clear that Snake is being used as a pawn in a much more complicated scenario, the reality of which his allies hide from him and his enemies hold the answers to. Again, essentially, this kind of paved the way for a lot of the movie hybrids we have nowadays, but without taking away control from the players. Instead of awkwardly meshing story bits and game bits, the two hop back and forth between equally long and satisfying sections. It's not the best way to do it. As much as I love codec calls, stopping in the midst of gameplay for 3 to 5 minutes to watch people in boxes talk to each other is something of the past. But again, it's dated, but it works. The story is still strongly conveyed, and despite the self-awareness and the wacky convoluted bullshit and, it looking like this, the plot's still played completely seriously. It's well known that Kojima loves movies, that's his whole thing. He specifically styled Metal Gear Solid after 80s blockbusters and action stars, and nowhere is it felt as much than in this game. This cheeky ass writing plays it up like everything these characters are saying is the most coolest, most seriousest, most profoundest things ever said, and to be honest, it's infectious. Cause the voice actors are putting their all into it too. Like the story or not, you cannot deny that the voice actors are awesome here. You've got these long-winded expositions going into detail to explain the history of nuclear development, the arms race, political tensions, capitalist and government exploitation, all leading into the plot of this game, and the one before that, and the one after this. And half the time, I don't know what they're yapping about, but I like Liquid's voice, and there is a point to it all, so it's enrapturing. The only outright flaw I think the story has here is in the human drama. One of the central themes of the franchise is the dehumanization of soldiers. Despite being morphed into these killing machines, what's left of their broken humanity is always present, even in battle. For that point to really take root though, we need time with multiple sides of these characters, which this game doesn't really give us. Most of the Foxhound unit here is pretty weakly written. You'll be introduced to them and their shtick or gimmick, you will then beat them, and then listen to like 10 minutes of them explaining their backstory and motives before they die. They suck. I like Meryl though. She's the heart of this story, but our time with her feels really abrupt in retrospect. We don't know her for the first fourth of the story, and she isn't really present for a lot of the later half of it, and in a lot of our time with her, she's just completely spilling her heart out. There's like no build up to it, it just doesn't land without it. But the themes do, and that's the important part here. Sometimes it's cheesy. A lot of the time it doesn't really make sense, but there's an extremely strong and relevant thematic message here. I'm not confident enough to explain it, but I swear it's there. Y'all know what I'm trying to say here. Metal Gear Solid is good, great, godlike even, but it needs a facelift. or a face in general. Like, look at Snake. That is not a face on him. That's like 3 lines.